tremendous wealth and also opportunity to build shelters and whatnot, and paired up with the fact that Iran has also been restrained in terms of its targeting, like they look at, at homes and go, this is so devastating, when in fact, in normal circumstances, when we're talking about Iran, when we're talking about southern Lebanon, when we're talking about Gaza, there are people in those areas that they are children, overwhelmingly women and children, civilians. Anyway, let's get into it. Israel, the giant baby nation that is throwing a giant baby tantrum, is I don't even know how many days it's been, is under the Iranian retaliation of anti-Semitic weapons, anti-Semitic Shahed missiles and Khyber missiles. This is, these are, I guess like day 4, day 5 at this point, of Israel basically experiencing a fraction of the pain that it has dished out at virtually every country in the region. Okay, yeah, Shahed drones, Khyber missiles, missiles of terror, that are of course heat-seeking, but instead of heat-seeking, is Jew-seeking missiles. By the way, it's not even a joke. Like, that unironically is something that an IDF soldier said on Fox News. They said Iran is sending missiles to kill Jews. Like, that is what an Israeli occupying force soldier unironically said. They have Jew-seeking missiles that they are sending anti-Semitically to Israel. Okay, that is where we're at this point, where Israel will go and do a first strike on Iran, completely violating a sovereign power's autonomy, its sovereignty, and then in retaliation, when they get a couple missiles lobbed in their direction, those missiles are actually anti-Semitically targeting the Jewish state. That is what the position is, and that's where we're at. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Like, it's just like so psychotic. I don't think anyone believes it. I think it's a great shame. Israel's existence is a great shame and a serious stain on like what they have done in terms of ruining the reputation of Judaism around the world, even though they have nothing to do with Judaism, make no mistake, but they just claim to be doing this for Jews in general. And I'm seeing more and more people that are like on the sidelines coming out and being like, hey guys, in the process of getting pummeled from Iranian missiles, you got American Jews coming out and being like, yo, this is not for us. Okay, cut it out. Like, which is wild, because under normal circumstances, I would say this would be the moment for the Hasbara machine in the West to just go into full gear. Like, look at us, we're being victimized. Look at us, we're being victimized. Look at us, they're killing us, they're attacking us, they're anti-Semitically attacking us. And yet, in the Western world, it gets very little play. It's actually shocking how little play it's getting, which leads me to believe that the silence coming from a lot of Westerners and even Western institutions is a little bit of complicity. Like, it's more so like, listen, we're holding, we would make statements and immediately come out and be like, oh, Israel, I can't believe Israel's being attacked this way. The reason why you see mostly radio silence from a lot of people, I think, is directly because people are just like, well, what did you expect? Like, obviously, this community is a little bit different because we have been watching everything unfold in real time. But it's like crazy how much like normies who want to maintain their professional careers, who immediately would start posting like they're running for office or some shit when moments like this took place, most of them have been awfully quiet about it. It's actually kind of shocking, because these are the moments where Israel is supposed to pop off. This is like the number one thing that Israel gets to do. The number one thing that Israel gets to do in this situation is be like, look at us, we're victimized again. Look at us, we're victimized again. We're being absolutely destroyed. Like, how dare they do this to us? And I don't think they're getting that support at all. And and American Jews are also very quiet about this situation as well, because like it's literally indefensible. Like, you've been doing a genocide for 20 months and then you turn around and attack Iran. Of course they're going to attack back. Like, what is the expectation? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Yeah. And so anytime now when you see posters from Israel being like, oh, we're under attack, it's literally filled to the brim. The comments are filled to the brim with people making fun of them. Making fun of them by showing their older tweets about how they were celebrating dead Palestinian children, like experiencing a fraction of the pain that the Israeli state has brought about, and how much they've championed it has made it so that people don't want to even defend Israel at all, even when Israel is like literally under attack. Now, this doesn't mean that America won't defend Israel. Of course it will. You know, because it plays a very important role in our grand design in the region. But as someone who looks at public sentiment about around this sort of stuff, it is actually shocking. The media is trying to obviously generate as much consent as they possibly can for Israel and maybe for going to war with Iran, but I don't think the public is eating that propaganda at all. Most people are just like, dude, I don't care. I don't care. Like, what do you expect? What the f do you expect? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, people look at the situation and go, dog, we've been giving billions to Israel so they can do whatever the f they want, and whatever the f they want has led to dead children daily. Okay? Kyrie Irving watching Nick Fuentes. Oh, I want to save him. I want to save Kyrie Irving so bad. I wish I could talk to him. It's kind of crazy because Kyrie Irving's, Kyrie Irving is a part of the Dallas Mavericks, which is now owned by Miriam Adelson. So him coming out and being like, I'm pro-Iran or whatever is like wild. But then I think all of that gets super clouded. All of that gets diluted when he's like also, getting his notes from some really insane right-wing neo-Nazis and shit. This is something that I have actively tried. This is something that I've actively tried to work against, and I still do to this day, which is to just like, I see a lot of this like animosity towards Israel, and I don't want people to fall down like weird rabbit holes and develop anti-Semitic tendencies rather than keeping their focus and priorities on Israel. And this is why I get so mad at dumbass institutions like the ADL, who attack people like myself and call me an anti-Semite. And it's ironic because like I'm actively trying to, combat and fight against anti-Semitism at a time when there is like a tremendous opportunity for Nazis to just cut as much anti-Semitic propaganda as they possibly can by just going, look around. It's really annoying. Yeah, I see really weird TikTok comments like, we got to apologize to Germany. Yeah, they say we got to apologize to the German guy. That's like another big one. So, I mean, all of that shit is popping the off everywhere. Everywhere. It's real. That is a real thing. You know what I mean? That is like a genuine problem. It's obviously anti-Semitism is still like institutionally protected, and that kind of enmity, at least right now, is not leading to like real violent consequences in the short term, but it can, and it has, and it will most likely lead to genuine problems in the long run, like real consequential, real scary problems in the long run. And it's like entirely because of Israel. It is crazy. Like Nazis utilizing all of the fantastic opportunities that Israel has given them and this unprecedented moment to just build a robust network of influence and clout. Anyway, having said that, let's get to the back and forth between Israel and Iran.
Latest now on the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. The countries exchanged deadly attacks throughout the weekend. Chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is on the scene in Tel Aviv. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, George. Attacks over the weekend and attacks early this morning. I want to show you the scene here in downtown Tel Aviv. That's where the Iranian missile landed. Just look at the devastation over there in the office block. But if we swing round 180 degrees, you can see these were residential apartment blocks also devastated in this Iranian attack.
This morning, a devastating strike.
This is pretty crazy to watch. Why do I have so many 31 month subscribers just behaving like little drama perverts, little drama pedophiles? What's going on? Lock in, chatters. Nobody gives a f about an Israeli state mouthpiece. Why would you come in here and engage in this kind of like idiotic drama bait? Who gives a shit?
In the heart of Tel Aviv, an Iranian ballistic missile evading air defense, exploding in a downtown residential neighborhood.
This is one of the apartment blocks that was hit in this, what appears to be a devastating missile attack. You can see this is not a military site, this is a residential site. You can see a children's teddy bear there on the ground, a woman's purse.
Like, can you imagine doing this kind of coverage in Gaza for the past 20 months? Wow. Like, can you imagine doing this kind of coverage in Tehran right now? Nope. Nope. Not happening. Because remember, in spite of the tit for tat, back and forth retaliatory attacks that are taking place that Israel literally started for no reason other than the fact that they're bored, okay, they're still conducting ethnic campaigns every day in the Gaza Strip, murdering children, sniping them directly on their way to get a crumb of aid. Make no mistake, that is still happening. And I want to read a take from Mohammed Shahada that I actually retweeted today. What Iran is allowed to do according to Israel's own rules of engagement in Gaza. If a single Israeli reservist or Likud member lives in a high-rise building, or if a single pistol is nearby, knock down the whole thing. If an Israeli reservist is being treated at a hospital, the shit out of it. Since Netanyahu is hiding in an unknown bunker under a densely populated city, drop a bomb every 5 meters indiscriminately until you hit the target. Even if you miss, it's okay. It's the intention that counts. Israel tried to assassinate Ezzaldin al-Haddad 12 times. Each resulted in a massacre. He's still alive. Israelis huddling a shelter. Surely one of or two of them must be Hamas. I mean, IDF linked, which they are. There are IDF soldiers in those shelters, of course. So level those places at random. Claim you're aiming at any reservist whose name shows up among the victims. It's an inevitability that you kill 100 people in one strike, that at least one of them would be a rank and file member of something. Issue an evacuation order to 80% of Israel, then bomb at will. Anyone who complains, yelled at them. We told Israelis to move south. Bomb journalists. They're propaganda operatives. Serious Israeli pretext. They have done this, by the way. Bomb humanitarian workers and doctors to starve the population and collapse their health system. Then claim they got in the way or were being used as human shields, or that they were Likud members themselves. Every time you kill a lot of civilians, keep repeating, they voted for a convicted terrorist. Itamar Ben-Gvir. He is a convicted terrorist, by the way. Therefore, they are all guilty. Keep saying there was a ceasefire on June 12th, and all of this can end now if Israel surrenders and releases the hostages. Bomb power plants, seaports, airports, water stations, sewage plants, and claim they all benefited the IDF, since soldiers are humans who use electricity and water. It works for Israel every time. Shoot anyone with a white flag, shoot hundreds of kids in the skull, and call doctors documenting this. Hamas, I mean Likud, use only bombs that splinter into 10,000 pieces and people in a radius of 500 meters at random. Those are literally Israel's rules of engagement in Gaza, and this is barely scratching the surface. I can go all day. P.S. for all the idiots and ding-dongs, this post is sarcastic. I don't approve of violence against civilians under any circumstances. If this post triggered you, blame your darling Israel, not me. These are their rules. Like, think about it. Think about how insane it has been since, for the first time ever, there is some semblance of, like, maybe not parity, but Israel is experiencing some retaliation, minor retaliation, as opposed to never experiencing any retaliation for its incredibly violent actions in the Gaza Strip, or its incredibly violent actions in Central Committee. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Israel never has experienced this level of response from any of the parties in the region that it destroys. Okay? So now that there is like some kind of response, even though the response is super managed, even though the response is super, super restrained in comparison to what Israel has been doing, even in Iran, like, imagine if the media covered Iranian actions in the same ways that they cover Israeli actions, as opposed to the humanization of the victims that are, Israeli civilian society, right? Like, think about this. These bombing campaigns, given Israel's tremendous wealth and also opportunity to build shelters and whatnot, And paired up with the fact that Iran has also been restrained in terms of its targeting, like they look at, at homes and go, this is so devastating. When in fact, in normal circumstances, when we're talking about Iran, when we're talking about southern Lebanon, when we're talking about Gaza, there are people in those areas that they are massacring children, overwhelmingly women and children, civilians. And yes, this isn't wrong. Yes, losing your home is devastating, okay? Losing your home is devastating. This is something that we've talked about quite a bit. Losing your home is terrifying. It's devastating. Losing your home to a bomb is incredibly scary, is incredibly traumatic. But there is no application of this kind of emotional turmoil that Israel puts others through ever. And this is before we even talk about the actual that Israel engages in with regular frequency. It is alarming.
Total devastation.
Hundreds of emergency workers flooding the scene, scouring for survivors. Alana Rubenfree was caught in the blast.
When a missile is landing outside your window and you can barely breathe because there's so much dust and debris in the air, it becomes very personal.
And overnight, more Iranian strikes in Israel. Retaliation, it says, for Israel's attack on its nuclear, military and energy infrastructure. This is the latest salvo in a deepening conflict between Israel and Iran.
By the way, the more that these bombing campaigns from the Iranian side see success, the more censorious Israel will get. For those of you who don't know, Israel has a deep military censor, okay? Even when there is no conflict, which there's never no conflict, obviously. Israel's on a state. There's always conflict and there's always violence to maintain that set apartheid state. But like, understand that there is a military censor that is constantly operating, right? And what that implies is like, whenever you see any images coming out of Israel, that means that the Israeli occupying force has okayed this footage, with the exception of like phone camera footage that we see every now and then, which the IDF Central Command has demanded that Israeli citizens stop filming. The reason why they don't want stuff is because, one, they don't want to reveal battery positions. They don't want to reveal, their defensive measures. But more importantly than that, they also don't want what? Hassan Loom, the comments are about 25 seconds late. What? Is there a delay actually? I don't think there is. No, people are responding very quickly. No, there is no. Yeah, there is like a 2-second delay, which is normal. So there's obviously a wait, hold on. Here, you know how we test it. You know how we test the delay. The Piker Broadcasting Service tests delays by urging you to subscribe, which you can do for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is free, of course, or by getting gifted a sub. Let's take a look. Now that I've made a call to action for subscriptions, let's see if they start rolling in, and we'll test the delay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, some subscriptions are coming in. All right, I guess that's the delay. That's it. It's only a few seconds. It's fine. Where was I? What was I talking about? I totally forgot what I was. There's also the fact that they want to just lie and say they're not getting hit is what you were about to say. No. The other reason, the other real reason, the major reason as to why they don't want any of this information coming out, unless it's like something that they can use for propaganda to be like, oh, we're the victims in the situation. Look at them anti-Semitically attacking us, is because people just feel tremendous hope when they see at least like a city block in Tel Aviv resemble a fraction of the pain that Israel has dished out to both Tehran, but also to Gaza, especially Gaza. Like, that's it. They don't like, there's this delicate balance between like how much of the death and destruction, or how much of the destruction, because there's not a lot of deaths, even though there are some casualties. How much of the destruction can we show to the world to garner support and sympathy, while simultaneously not showing so much that like Iran can use it as propaganda, or people can feel, people can celebrate and cheer on the toll that Israel has taken for the first time ever. But of course, you can't stop the most human thing, which is if you're an Israeli and you're sitting in your living room and you see missiles being lobbed in your direction, you're going to come out and film it. Okay. That is just how it is. Everybody does that. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but that is a normal part of existence now, okay? That's just how it is. If people use the Chromium extension to Twitch latency display, they can see the actual real-time delay in the upper left corner, and it also has a fast-forward button to below chat field. Here's your delay. Wow, you freaking nerd. CNN reports Israel's Air Force attacked 2 Iranian F-14 fighter jets in Iran. Netanyahu does not rule out targeting Iran's supreme leader. Man, I sure love World War III. I know, we're going to get to that in a second. How much punishment are the Israelis willing to take? I don't know. You showed that it's possible to kill 100 Gazans a day and no one cares. Now they'll see that I'll do it for you too. What? Are we going to get used to 10 deaths a day and hundreds of people without homes, says Maya Kroll? And then third world is primitive accumulation. I guess Israeli anti-Zionist chatter. Hassan Abihed responds, you showed that it's possible to kill 100 Gazans a day and no one cares. Now they'll see that it'll do it for you too. So one of the things I've talked about, oh, he's Palestinian. Google Translate is cooked. Yeah. One of the things I have talked about in this process is U.S. gave Turkey a heads up hours before the attack. Yeah, that's not surprising. Anyway, we'll I'm gonna get back into this. I forgot what I was gonna say. Shit. My friend has family in Israel and Gaza. The family living in East Jerusalem have been told if they are caught sharing footage and photos of bombings, they will be dealt with using terrorism laws. Yeah. Oh, one of the things that I talked about in the beginning of this was the appetite that like certain countries have for death and destruction, or like the tolerance that they have, not appetite, but the tolerance that they have for death and destruction in their own backyard. Okay? A country like Israel that has positioned itself as like a nation state that has laptop jobs and a nation state that has marketing jobs, and you know, where you can wear your capri pants, and you know, maybe a couple neighborhoods over you got like some religious fundamentalists spitting on tourists, Christian tourists or whatever. But like ultimately, Tel Aviv is supposed to be this like beacon of liberalism, like a Western liberal democracy. The entire country is very Eurocentric. The way that they've designed it is very Eurocentric, and it comes with the comforts of being in the auspices of Western. Being in the comforts of like a Western nation, it's smack dab in the middle of this region, right? So when you are used to that, and that promise has to be kept to the public, otherwise no one will live there, right? You can't constantly also be at war with all these other countries and constantly do death and destruction everywhere else, because people are inevitably going to try and punish you for it to the best of their ability, try to incur some penalties, like try to give you penalties for doing this, right? And that is the reason why I think Israeli society broadly does not have the same tolerance for having their regular state of orders disrupted. They need to be able to go to the beach. They need to be able to, you know, drink their matcha. Whereas a country like Yemen has tremendous tolerance for death and destruction. Death and destruction is all the people of Yemen have ever known. Death and destruction is all the people of Gaza have ever known. The Palestinians have ever known. They've only known domination. They've only known what it's like to live under the oppressive thumb of an apartheid state. So that Western entitlement actually makes a society somewhat weak to additional to any kind of military incursion that disrupts their day-to-day existence. And I think this is the reason why the bandwidth that Israel has for any sort of penalties, no matter how minor it is in comparison to what Israel has done everywhere else, I think will play a formative role and will become a national security problem for Israel in general. We shall see. Because the only thing, however, that keeps Israel together, Israeli society together, the glue that sticks all of this project together, is the resentment and hatred for all Arabs and all Muslims in general. Okay? So this is a unique situation where, one, there is unprecedented penalties that they're experiencing that disrupts their, like, we're a Western style liberal society. So that is actually that will breed resentment and anger. But the glue has hardened because now they're finally attacking the big guy, okay? Iran. This is like the #1 enemy for Israel and America as well in the region. So that's something to consider. You sure don't mean Europe? What do you mean? Wait till the only home flying out as soon as the airports are open. No, Haaretz has reported that they don't want Israelis to be able to leave on rescue flights. Haaretz reported yesterday that the Israeli government does not want Israelis to leave Israel because if given the opportunity, Israelis would of course escape Israel. Why the fuck would they stay there? They're like, oh my God, they're bombing shit. It's no longer bathtub rockets made by 17-year-old Al-Qassam Brigade orphans, okay? That Tamir interceptors can easily pick off. It's now real missiles from a real sovereign state that has the targeting capabilities of an actual full-fledged state. And the only reason why they are deploying those weapons, the only reason why Iran is deploying those weapons is because Israel struck Iran. That's it. But would you not say that Israel as a country as a whole stands on war and constant... oh, shit. I think you spammed it too hard, so you got clapped here, but hold on. But would you not say that Israel as a country as a whole stands on war and constant expansion? I mean, the existence of settlements, compulsory military service, the absence of liberal opposition, and the need for constant enemy to fight? Yes, as long as their enemies, their perceived enemies, remain vulnerable. That's the reason why they can do full tilt ethnic cleansing in Gaza against a completely captive population that they are the belligerent occupier of. But when in Lebanon, they get their shit pushed in, so they can't do ground incursions with the same ease. Even in Gaza right now, there are still militants smoking Israeli soldiers. Think about that. 20 months of genocide, and you still got, like, every now and then there will be another report of like a 19-year-old rear admiral general got smoked in northern Gaza or in Rafah. Like, that's incredible. That means that these guys can't even kill the militancy in a captive population. Here's one from just now. Look at that. Permission granted for publication. Reserve Captain Tal Movshovitz, 28 of the Me'arot, Deputy Commander Brigadier of the 7086th Engineering Battalion, the Golani Brigade, fell in battle in the southern Gaza Strip. Like, that's still happening. Because these guys are still deployed in Gaza while Tel Aviv is like experiencing unprecedented repercussions for Israeli violence. Israel, as is the case immediately during October 7 and immediately after October 7, is still going with the one speed that they know. What did I tell you on October 8 when I was covering this stuff? What did I tell you? The first thing Israel did, while there were still Palestinian resistance forces inside of the Gaza boundary, inside of the Gaza envelope, within the kibbutzim, what did Israel do? Israel's first act was not to try and push out the Palestinian resistance from inside of the Green Line. It was to bomb Gaza. So while they're being bombed, like, these are still conducting their ethnic cleansing campaign, and they're still getting smoked. So the reason why I mention this, the reason why I'm talking about this in particular, the reason why I'm saying this is because, yes, constant expansion is a necessity for fascist states. You're right. But constant expansion against a captive population without any severe penalties to your comfortable existence inside of the Israeli state, right, is also a necessity. Because you will not be able to constantly refuel and refeed the military necessary if the military is experiencing too many casualties in the process, which they have. That's why there's like a reservist problem right now, which is why they want to deploy the Haredi population as well, which is the fastest growing segment of Israeli society, even though they get religious exemption. And this has created some serious political chaos internally in Israel. It was part of the reason why this was Benjamin Netanyahu's last possible opportunity to strike Iran, because the Knesset was at the precipice of dissolving because they need more soldiers. And the only way that they can get more soldiers is the population, even though the Haredi population are not trained, you know what I mean, and would most likely not be a competent fighting force anyway. In the short term, the short term training that is necessary. So My point is, a country like Israel doing short-term sieges like Cast Lead and all these operations, mowing the lawn operations in Gaza, is the perfect way to keep up the intensity and the domination of Palestinians without incurring severe penalties inside of the colonial entity. Full tilt ethnic cleansing campaign for 20 months, on the other hand, is not so easy because it requires a tremendous amount of manpower, and reservists don't want to go back after 20 months. There's like they're like, I've had my fill of child murder. And that in and of itself, is a problem. But then pair that up with like actual normal Israeli society no longer being able to get their matchas and go to the beach and shoot their stupid TikToks about how wonderful things are in Tel Aviv. Without that promise of like a bastion of liberalism, like we're a normal country. When that falls apart, and that only falls apart when the Iron Dome falls apart, which it is right now. When that falls apart, all of a sudden, the only safe haven for Jews is not so safe anymore. You see what I'm saying? Because Israelis are not like a different organism. They're human beings just like you and me. They also like their treats, especially because their material circumstances, their material conditions are close enough to the experience that you can get in a Western capital. Okay? And when those treats go away, and there's like actually, for the first time ever, like serious fear, real fear for once, that you know, all of this violence that you've dished out in the region has now unfolded and is causing you to experience a fraction of said violence. All of a sudden, you don't have that kind of appetite. You don't have the same appetite for death and destruction, is my suspicion. The government has ordered airlines not to take Israelis abroad when the rescue flights begin. This is part of the reason why I think they don't want that. They don't want Israelis fleeing. They don't want their population to diminish. Yeah, here is a new policy org. Breaking, a new policy org source tells that the meeting yesterday between U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu devolved into a shouting match over Netanyahu's objections to the U.S. plans to evacuate our citizens from Israel and the wider region. U.S. officials believe that Netanyahu's objection was predicated on his desire to hold U.S. citizens at risk in order to increase the likelihood of U.S. entry into Israel's conflict with Iran. If the American Jews with dual passports flee to America, okay, that's a decent chunk of the population. A lot of settlers are going to leave. You know what I mean? You know who's not going to leave? Because they can't, or also because they will never leave. They haven't left with 77 years of brutal occupation. The Palestinians. So every Jewish American or every Jewish person that leaves Israel goes against the Zionist project, because the Zionist project demands more Jewish people come to Israel and live in Israel, only and to believe, even if they don't live in Israel, to fight for Israel as far as like propaganda, so that Israel can continue operating in the ways that it does. And the only way to get people on board with that is by claiming that Israel is the only safe haven for Jews. And if it wasn't for Israel, then there would be no safe place for Jews. All of a sudden, though, now the Jews in Israel want to leave Israel. They want to come to America. I thought it was the scariest place on the planet. What happened? You know? Panic moment among Israelis as they realize their shelters are just safe against small unguided rockets fired from Gaza. The Israeli Home Front Command is trying to avoid chaos, claims the shelters are safe against Iranian missiles. They are, of course, not. After 2 people were killed by a ballistic missile while sheltering in a protected space in their home, the IDF Home Front Command stresses that remaining in a bomb-safe room is still the safest place to be amid Iran's attacks. Yeah. They have all the smoke for a vulnerable, captive population. Think about that. Think about that, dude. Think about that. They have designed, do you understand? This right here is exactly what I'm talking about, chatters. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you get it now? Constant expansion against a vulnerable force of predominantly child civilians, okay? Predominantly women and children is something that the Israeli government can continue maintaining pressure on while also keeping things relatively safe at the home front for the average liberal society, for the society that is still in jorts. But you can't do that when you go after a sovereign state that is not already undermined by Western intervention, or at least undermined by Western intervention, and yet still Hassan is in panic mode. What are you saying? Yo, watch what happens tonight in Iran. Tomorrow the world is going to be very different. You're a dumb idiot. Hassan is in panic mode, lol. Can't face reality, lol. What are you saying? Yeah, they're going to try to assassinate the heads of state. They're going to do a decapitation strike. I know that already. And they're going to do that in correspondence with American intervention as well. This is not a shock to me at all. This is something that I have been saying. I'm describing the current attitudes in Israeli society and what I foresee looks like what kind of societal fissures exist within Israel, what kind of pressures Israel is experiencing for the first time ever. What is this? Footage shows Israelis preventing Thai and foreign workers from using public bunkers. I don't know if they actually did that. I don't know. I don't have, that's not verified. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. There's not enough verification for me in that. It's debunked. Yeah, there's no verification. The direct missile impact breached the bomb safe room, which are designed to sustain shockwaves as such missiles, as well as shrapnel. 2 people in the safe room were killed. However, those in shelters on the floors above and below were unharmed, the Home Front Command says. The 2 other fatalities in Petah Tikva were outside of protective spaces when the missile struck. 1 person was on the floor where the missile hit, but not in their safe room, and the other was in a neighboring building hit by the shockwave, according to Home Front Command. Home Front Command says bomb-safe rooms are the safest place to be amid ballistic missile attacks, especially in the new buildings. The reinforced rooms have saved countless lives in the missile barrages from Iran thus far. Yeah, no, I know the Israeli government confirmed that Israelis cannot leave. I know.
Tehran's attack coming hours after Israel launched strikes across Iran, hitting surface-to-surface missile sites and a gas depot on Sunday, with huge columns of smoke rising above the skyline. Now, new concerns that the United States could be dragged further into the conflict. 2 U.S. officials telling ABC News President Trump earlier rejecting an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader. The president hopeful for peace, but saying this conflict may be necessary.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out.
From Tehran.
Dude, by the way, how American is this? That, like, our vision, backed up by a fascist state in the region, is causing civilizational collapse. And we are so far removed from the actual impact that we're just like, yeah, maybe they'll do a deal. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe. Get back to the table, I say. A week after, he literally was like, yeah, we totally them over. The deal was fake. The deal was fake. We wanted Israel to strike. We knew it. I knew it. You know? It's just like this right here has always been America's position. We get to do things in this incredibly selfish manner, and that's how we have operated always. Like, with the exception of Pearl Harbor and 9/11, okay, there are very few instances where the American home front has ever experienced a fraction of the pain of being involved in military conquest, justifiable or unjustifiable. many of which is unjustifiable, but some is justifiable, like World War II. Like, that gave us a massive upper hand in redesigning the world after World War II, is that, like, our industry wasn't burned to the ground. It wasn't reduced to rubble, right? We had a war economy that was incredibly productive. We took advantage of that because of our proximity to all of the battles that are happening.
And to Tel Aviv, civilians now increasingly caught in the crossfire of a conflict that shows no sign of easing.
Israel now revealing that 10 to 15% of Iranian attacks are getting through air defenses, as the residents here can testify. Robin?
They certainly can, Ian. Thank you.
So we go to a Fox News alert. Israel says it has eliminated 4 senior intel officials, including the IRGC's head of intelligence. This is the Quds Force headquarters, we believe.
It comes as Iranian missile strikes kill at least 8 and injured hundreds more as rocket fire rained down on central and northern Israel overnight.
Trey Yingst is live in Israel with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Overnight missiles rained down across Israel, killing at least 8 people, some of them slipping past missile defense systems at 5 different locations, destroying both apartment buildings and residential blocks. We got to one scene blocks away from the U.S. Embassy branch here that was also damaged in that strike. And when we got there, first responders were rushing into the flames, trying to look for survivors in the rubble. We spoke with one man named Gal. Here's what he had to say.
When the missiles arrived, we were in the staircase in the building. And the shock was like so huge. I never saw even a piece of a rocket. And to see an explosion right in front of my face and my brother's face, crazy.
A ballistic missile had...
It's like, I do wonder, will there ever be a moment where, like, someone who has experienced these bombs, like these kinds of like rocket attacks, will turn around and be like, this is what we've been doing in Gaza? Like, this is pretty tough. I mean, I'm not even saying that as a joke. Like, I wonder if there's anyone that... I wonder if anyone actually sees that and goes like, yeah, this is what we've been doing is like pretty messed up. I never really thought about it like this, but I doubt it, but maybe, probably not.
Has just slammed into a building in the center of Tel Aviv. Right now, first responders are trying to put out the flames in the distance. You can see right now, there are a variety of paramedics on the scene, police officers and soldiers. And if you come over here, you'll see part of a collapsed building. They don't know if anyone is currently inside, but they are checking right now.
The Iranians continue to launch waves and waves of ballistic missiles into this country. Overnight, we understand there were 65 missiles, and they were targeting a variety of locations. We could hear the explosions in Tel Aviv as some were intercepted overhead by Israel's advanced missile defense systems. The Israelis are striking back, taking out top intelligence officials from the Iranian regime, including the country's chief intelligence officer and his deputy. They also took out what they say are 1/3 of the ballistic missile launching positions. Despite the fact the Israelis say they now have air superiority over the Iranian capital of Tehran, this is expected to continue for a number of days, if not weeks, as Israeli forces are trying to weaken the Iranian regime and target the country's nuclear facilities. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Trey, would you say the number of ballistic missiles, rockets, and drones are leveling off from night after night after night? Because that's what Israel is banking on, that they're going to locate the launchers, they're going to run out of rockets, they can't replenish, and they have no air defense. So is that happening?
Look, the Iranians appear to be preserving what missiles they have left. We spoke with a senior Israeli intelligence official over the weekend who indicated the assessment is that Iran has around 2,000 ballistic missiles. And the Israelis have been able to take out some of the stockpile. They've been able to target, like I said, 1/3 of the launching positions. But this still gives Iran the capability to fire hundreds of ballistic missiles into this country. And that is why Israel is still in a state of emergency. The airport is closed, and they are bracing for challenging days ahead. Officials speaking with Fox News say there will be more casualties, there will be more destruction. And you see in the aftermath videos here, these are not like the rockets that came from Gaza or from southern Lebanon. These are missiles that can take out entire blocks in major cities like Tel Aviv. And from what we saw last night, and I was being very careful as we arrived on the scene less than an hour after the explosion, of describing where it was, But now we can report because U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee came out publicly and said there was minor damage to the U.S. Embassy branch here in Tel Aviv. This is a
Yeah, this, by the way, this was the reason why they couldn't report on it, because there was some minor damage to the American embassy, which is like technically U.S. soil. So that is the reason. I thought it would be because like I don't know, like a high profile person could have been potentially assassinated or something. Like that wasn't the reason. Could it be a false flag strikes to the U.S. embassy? No, I don't think. Chatters, no. No, I'm fairly certain that it was they're saying it was limited. Like they're saying that it was like it probably was from the shockwaves or something.
Residential area. It is packed with civilians, cafes and restaurants. And when we got there, for blocks, you could see storefronts that were completely ripped apart, glass shards all over the street from windows that were blown out. And so to answer your question, the Iranians are preserving what supply they have left. They certainly are in a position where eventually they will run out of ballistic missiles, but Israel is certainly not out of the woods yet, and we can expect more Israeli strikes throughout the day as they try to mitigate that risk of ballistic missile fire.
Like there are some people who want vengeance. Okay, there are a lot of people cheering on what's going on because of their appetite for finally seeing like a little bit of repercussion, like Israeli society broadly experiencing a little bit of the pain that they have caused to the Palestinians, to the Lebanese people, to people in fucking Syria, all around, right? My assessment on this as a public figure, who abides by terms of service and also is constantly hunted by people who want to deplatform me, is that I see this as like I see the retaliation as maybe a crumb of hope that Israel will stand down. Like that is my only hope out of this, is that Israel stands down or America recalculates the attitude that they have for full tilt death and destruction is too much instability, it's too much destabilization. They recognize that like Israeli society might collapse, and then they won't be able to come back in a couple of years and utilize Israel to the best of their ability, like they have been doing so far, and it causes America to recalculate, and it causes Israel to recalculate, and hopefully pull back a little bit, scale back, and I don't know, go back to the drawing board. And there is a period of stability. But the only way to do this, the only way to actually to make sure that this calculation happens from the American side, from the Israeli side, is if like Iran uses less restraint and actually matches the intensity of Israeli strikes. They haven't done so thus far. Obviously, there are limitations due to the Iranian arsenal, how much they have, and their strike capabilities, because they're using missiles as opposed to Israel that has the capacity to do more precise bombing campaigns as a consequence of consequence of being able to fly over the Iraq airspace, fly over Syria, refuel on the way there. Iran can't do that. So they can only use missiles. I think the only way that Iran could keep this up as a defensive posture would most likely be if they were getting aided by the Chinese state or by Russia, which I don't think Russia has enough bandwidth to even help Iran out in this process, or maybe even the appetite to help Iran out, considering that Russia has also a unique relationship with Israel as well. So I don't know. Self-proclaimed, this is Arsen Ostrovsky, my favorite international human rights lawyer, who is a psychotic Hosberist, but self-proclaimed leading international human rights lawyer pronounces collective death sentence on Israeli media. That is a legitimate military target, given it's a key propaganda machine advancing Iranian military and nuclear goals. Breaking, Israeli airstrikes targeted Iran state broadcaster in Tehran. I don't understand how they're still operating with the same dynamic that they did with Gaza. They think Iran as a nation state that has spent the last couple of decades building up their defenses and their offensive capabilities for this very moment will not be able to retaliate in kind. Israel struck the oil depot in Tehran. What did Iran do in retaliation? They blew up the Haifa oil refinery. If Israel attacks the Iranian National News Agency, then Iran will attack Israeli news agencies. I don't get it. It's a back and forth. Yes, it is significantly less the damage to Israel that Iran can implement is obviously far less consequential, far less severe than what Israel can do to Tehran and Israel can do to Iran in general. But I don't understand how these guys are so callous in their indifference, even when there are clearly repercussions for regular Israeli society. They struck the nuclear scientists. Iran struck the academic institution in Israel. They blew up an institute of research. They did that. So clearly they are getting their notes as far as their strike priorities and their targeting priorities from what Israel does to Iran. Every single bit of violence that you have seen so far, every single instance of like retaliatory strikes on Israeli soil has come after Israel has targeted something similar in Iran.
Toward major cities like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and the northern city of Haifa.
So, Trey, I'm curious. These missiles that the Iranians are firing, do they have targets, or are they just shooting them out there? So the reason why I ask this is because, number one, they're hitting civilians, and number two,
I think Trey will be somewhat honest here, but I don't expect any honesty from Fox News in general. Let's see.
When it comes to that embassy area that belongs to the United States, essentially, would they have known that's where that missile was going to hit?
Yes, they have precision-guided munitions, and they know broadly where they are firing these. And without getting into too many details about some of the targets that were hit, I can broadly tell you
he can't say unless the Israeli government openly admits that almost all of the targets are military installations, which, by the way, the Israeli government has admitted. 90% of the strike targets have been military installations, according to the Israeli government's own admission. But because of this is not even dishonesty at this point, for the record. No. You don't understand. This is Israeli censorship. Okay? This is Israeli censorship. He can't say they're striking military targets because the Israeli military does not want the rest of the world to know that the Iranian government has successfully struck military targets. They did this last time, not this last round. Operation, what is it, like Truth or whatever? What is the name of the True Promise? During Operation True Promise 2, after last year, they struck the Negev Desert. Okay, Operation True Promise 2. That actually hit Israeli bases. And the only reason why we know is because people were driving down the side of the road and they were filming. The Israeli military immediately stamped out. Israeli military immediately stamped out that information. They made it, they don't want this kind of information to come out. But they did. They successfully struck air bases in the Negev Desert. That's the reason why Trey can't say exactly what the Iranian strike targets look like. That's why he's saying, well, what I can tell you is, like, look.
Yes, they have precision-guided munitions, and they know broadly where they are firing these. And without getting into too many details about some of the targets that were hit, I can broadly tell you that the Iranians are going after military and civilian targets. Now, with that...
Yeah. Israel has complete air dominance over Iran, and Iran is running out of TELs. I think that's hopium. You are missing a huge point in this conflict, my brother. The regime is utterly incompetent. They're idiots. They have all been chosen by loyalty instead of skills. They can win the mind game so easily, telling Israel was using human shield. They even refused to show the civilian death toll on national TV. What are you talking about? Are you talking about Iran?
Said the Israeli.
He's not wrong about one of the actual issues with the Iranian regime, though. Like that is the nepotism and like loyalty loyalty transcending the competence narratives is not simply a narrative, but it's also the reality. It's a major flaw within the Islamic Republic for sure. That's not even a joke. That's not a meme. I think that is a real problem. I think that Iran lucked out with someone like Hassan Nasrallah, who, and this is not my assessment, this is Benjamin Netanyahu's own personal admission, was infinitely smarter than anyone that the IRGC could have ever put up as a incredibly important faction of the resistance against Israel. Oh, I'm effing a little bit. Classic, mini F baby, mini F time. Calm down, everybody. It's okay. We're still here. Let's continue. It fixed itself.
Israelis are striking in a much more precise manner when they hit Iran. They go after military leadership. Certainly civilians have been killed in Iran, but the focus of Israeli strikes, it's IRGC targets and its nuclear program-linked targets, along with the country's ballistic missile program. When the Iranians fire these barrages of missiles, they're often hitting densely populated areas. And as we saw earlier in the day yesterday, at a different location that had been hit, the entire half of an apartment building collapsed after one of these missiles struck an area and killed 2 children, along with 2 adults, and many other people were injured. And just to give you a sense of the scene, because we often talk about the missiles and we talk about the ability to intercept them and how many are being fired by Iran, but the people that are paying the price, it's Israeli civilians. And when we arrived at that scene earlier,
like, this is the propaganda side of this, is when he says, oh, sure, Israel has struck civilians too, but they're very precise targeted campaigns against the military. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Israel has been literally massacring civilians, so much so that it actually goes against their overall ambitions of regime change. Because if the ultimate goal here is to create instability and chaos in Iran and take advantage of the factional and sectarian tensions that exist in Iranian society against the Islamic Republic, then they shouldn't be killing so many civilians. But because they've been killing civilians, it goes against their overarching ambition of creating instability in Iran. All they have done is galvanize different sects of Iranian society that normally despises the Iranian regime to actually come to terms with an atomic weapons program. Their bloodlust is getting in the way of them conducting a more sophisticated military campaign that could work to cause chaos and create instability inside of Iran. So they don't actually have a desire for regime change, at least not like that. It's just what you tell the press in the world. No, they're not even saying that their final ambition is to enact the regime change. Their ambition is to enact regime change. Certainly, that's the ultimate goal here. Their ultimate goal is to take advantage of the existing economic strangulation of Iran and the existing tensions that are ever present in Iranian society, to completely collapse the Iranian state, to turn it into a failed state, and then put forth an American puppet, an American Israel-backed puppet in charge. Because their goal here isn't just about Iran. Their goal is, and it's certainly not about the nukes. Their goal here is their goal here is to destabilize Iran and then pack it up and bring it into the banner of either American and Israeli control, or at least leave it as a complete fail state, that like it can't do anything. It can't be a valuable and reliable ally to Chinese interests, because the goal is to focus on China. Like, make it look like either Syria or make it look like Libya. Is it purely Islamophobia, international relations? No, of course it's not purely Islamophobia. Islamophobia is the seasoning that you add. Yeah, Ryan Grimm talking about potentially China arming Iran is something that I have been paying close attention to as well. Felix says, do you know how badly I wish China was even 8% likely to do this? Man, I miss the USSR and I wasn't even around for it. And I think this is wish casting. That's what I think this is. China did send 3 military planes into Tehran days ago. I mean, we don't, that's not an... Sect Saver, thank you for the 10 gifted. They already have, I believe, like what, a 25-year energy contract with Iran. They are, they get a lot of oil and gas from Iran. I mean, it makes sense for them to want to protect their asset, right? Favorable oil deals for China and protecting your asset, protecting a formative ally in your One Belt, One Road initiative, continuing to have a foothold in the Strait of Hormuz. That's a hugely important, that is a hugely important a piece of military power for, or not even military power, but like it's a stabilizing force for China in the region. Iran is profoundly important for China for many different reasons, which is precisely why a country that has ambitions of maintaining stability while also slowly but surely creating a sphere of influence and power like China that is often doing 15-year plans, right? I suspect that they would be very careful in this. They would be more hands-on with defending their incredibly invaluable asset in the region.
Earlier in the day yesterday, separately.
Please check Israel Samson option leak. Dude, I know, man. Stop. I know. It's not something that leaked, okay? It's something that we know has existed. It's not new. Yes, the Samson option is Israel uses their nukes if they feel like it's their final option. It's like the USSR dead hand, okay? Yes, if they are getting pummeled to a degree, they say they will use their nukes. Yes, the leak includes targets. Oh yeah, Israeli THAAD scores a touchdown on itself on the Nevatim airbase here. A missile interceptor reportedly in the area of the Nevatim airbase suffered a malfunction and crashed to the ground. This is too big for the Iron Dome. Probably one of the larger interceptors intended to destroy ballistic missiles. We watched this last night. But yeah, this was crazy. It'd be like that sometimes. Here, watch this. Watch this. I don't think this is a THAAD or a David Sling missile. Isn't this one of those like dual warheads? Am I crazy? Missile autists in the chat. Missile autists in the chat. Isn't this one of those that just like isn't this one of those that like opens up and it's like a dual warhead that is Iranian? Or does the Arrow do this as well? Because some of the missiles that I thought Iranians had would once they get into strike distance, they open up and they'll go in like 2 different directions or something. But yeah, look, watch this. That's a big boom. That's two big booms. Costco guys would say that's 5 booms. No ICBs open up and shoot their multiple warheads when in space, not close up. Oh. If it's THAAD, there's a reminder the U.S. produces 60 THAAD interceptors a year, as far as I know. Iran sent 140 drones 15 minutes ago. Can I send tweet? Yeah, we saw. That doesn't... I know there's a new wave. Drone attacks are... Maybe I'm wrong, but drone attacks are... They get intercepted pretty easily. People say it's a THAAD. The missile broke into at launch. Iranian state media said it was electronic warfare that made it friendly fire. That could be That could simply be them, claiming that this isn't new. This is from yesterday. That could be just them taking ownership over it, even though they didn't, in order to cause maximum chaos. U.S. changed Nimitz South China Sea tour and is going to the Middle East now. Okay. This press statement from China condemning Israel's attack on Iran is worth understanding in its full context, as it uses unusually forceful language. China explicitly condemns Israel's violation of Iran's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity, and firmly opposes the reckless attacks targeting Iranian officials and causing civilian casualties. China supports Iran in safeguarding its national sovereignty, defending its legitimate rights and interests, and ensuring the safety of its people, they say. Just like the U.S. sees arming Ukraine as a means to drain Russian resources, China sees the same opportunity to drain the U.S. by supporting Iran. Iran is a major trading partner with China, so is Israel, particularly when it comes to cheap oil sent to Chinese refineries, more important than its trade relationship with Israel, of course, even though Israel does give American tech to China sometimes. Oopsie. That is a hugely important for Chinese national security. That's right. Israel sometimes gives American technology that China is not supposed to have directly to China. Make no mistake. Pakistan recently fended off the attack from India using Chinese weapons, which in many cases outperform Western weapons. So in other words, Israel is stupid to get into a war of attrition with Iran, which is 10 times bigger and backed by a rising power. But whatever, nobody in Israel listens to me anyway. The China statement is in the reply. I don't think China is going to arm Iran. That would be uncharacteristic of China. And I think that it would go against China's incredible non-interventionist, like sometimes annoying non-interventionist policies.
From where you saw that insert where I spoke with the wounded man, we saw a son, and he was wearing a hospital gown because he had been taken from the rubble to a local hospital, and he demanded that the doctors and nurses release him, despite the fact that he was wounded, because his father was still buried under the debris. And we brought you that story yesterday, but unfortunately his father was killed. His body was pulled from the rubble later in the day after we left that area. And it speaks to the people who are affected here. They are civilians, they're family members. No Israeli soldiers have been killed in the Iranian response. A few have been lightly wounded, but largely we're talking about civilians. According to the Israelis, 24 of them have been killed since Friday night when the Israelis launched this campaign targeting the Iranian regime. And so as we move forward here, this is really important to talk about the distinction between the target list here.
Okay, yes. Israelis are human beings, and they're the only human beings in the region.